The office never truly slept. It only held its breath. She arrived before dawn, as she always did, when the city outside still yawned and the elevators carried only cleaners and ghosts of ambition. Her heels made no sound on the marble floor. She liked it that way. Silent entry, clean start, control. By the time the sun crept between the towers of glass and steel, everything was already in place. Meetings aligned down to the minute. Security briefings reviewed twice. Phone lines tested. Encrypted emails flagged and sorted. Cash flow reports balanced to the last digit. Nothing was left to chance because nothing could be. In this building, chance got people killed. She was the only one who knew every door code, every back channel, every name that never appeared on paper. She knew which shipments were legitimate and which ones required silence. She knew which men could be trusted with a warning and which ones only understood consequences. She knew when to schedule meetings so enemies would never cross paths and when to delay them just long enough for problems to disappear. She was invisible. Not because she was weak, not because she lacked presence, but because she chose precision over noise, power without spectacle. They called her his assistant. That word didn't begin to cover it. The man whose empire she ran from behind glass walls and locked doors was known by many names. In whispered conversations and hurried glances, he was called ruthless, untouchable, cold-blooded. In police files that never reached court, he was something worse. In the underworld, he was law. The Mafia boss did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He did not negotiate twice. Men feared him not because he was loud, but because he was exact. He sat in his office now, high above the city, back straight, suit immaculate, hands resting calmly on the desk as he reviewed the day's agenda she had prepared. Gray eyes skimmed lines of text, absorbing everything, missing nothing. She stood across from him, tablet in hand, posture perfect, expression neutral. "You moved the meeting with the dock authority," he said without looking up. "Yes," she replied evenly. "Their deputy director was arrested last night. The replacement is inexperienced and likely to overcompensate. A delay benefits us." A pause, one heartbeat, then a single nod. "Correct." That was praise. From him, it was everything. He trusted no one, not his lieutenants, not his lawyers, not even the men who had grown up bleeding beside him. Trust was a currency he did not spend. Except on her. He trusted her with schedules that doubled as kill orders, with files that could dismantle alliances, with information that could burn the city down if spoken aloud. Yet when his gaze lifted, it passed over her like she was part of the furniture. A fixture, necessary, replaceable in theory, though not in reality. He never asked where she lived. Never asked how she spent her nights. Never asked who waited for her when she left the building long after dark. In his mind, she existed only here, in this office, in this role. She was efficient fingers on a keyboard, a voice on the intercom, a mind that anticipated his needs before he voiced them. Not a woman with thoughts that lingered after midnight. Not a person with a life beyond his walls. And she allowed that misconception because it made her indispensable. Around them, the organization moved like a living organism. Guards shifted positions. Phones rang and stopped. Orders flowed downward. Fear flowed upward. Everyone knew the rules. Do your job, do not be noticed. Do not make him look twice at you. She broke that last rule daily. Not by defiance, but by competence so sharp it cut through chaos. When something went wrong, she had already fixed it. When someone betrayed him, she had already flagged the discrepancy. When danger approached, she had already moved it out of his path. He depended on that. Quietly, completely. Sometimes, in the rare moments when the office was still, when the city lights reflected in the glass like distant stars, he would pause before dismissing her. His eyes would linger for a fraction of a second too long, as if sensing something unnamed just beyond his awareness. Then the moment would pass. "Anything else?" he would say, tone flat, controlled. "No," she would answer, "that's all." And she would leave, disappearing into elevators and shadows, carrying secrets heavier than most men could survive. No one ever asked her about her weekends. No one wondered who she was outside these walls. Because in their minds, she had no personal life, no desires, no distractions. She was simply there, always. And that was exactly how the mafia boss believed it too. He had no idea that the woman who ran his empire so flawlessly had a world of her own waiting beyond the doors. No idea that one night, very soon, she would step into his line of sight with someone else beside her. And when she did, the illusion he had built around her would shatter. Violently, irrevocably. Because the woman who never existed was about to become the only thing he could see. The gala arrived wrapped in velvet shadows and quiet danger. Crystal lights burned above polished marble floors, and every man in the room carried secrets heavier than the champagne in his glass. She had planned every detail of this night, down to the breath between arrivals. Security placements flawless. Guest flow controlled. Exits guarded. Power contained. She stepped inside late on purpose. Not because she was careless, but because tonight she was not invisible. Her dress was dark and simple, but it changed everything. Not flashy. Not reckless. Just enough to remind the world she was a woman before she was an assistant. And she did not walk in alone. The stranger beside her was calm, confident, unfamiliar. His hand rested lightly at her back, not claiming but present. Close enough to matter. Across the ballroom, the mafia boss froze. It was not obvious to anyone else. No gasp. No sudden movement. Just a pause. A microscopic fracture in perfect control. He had entered minutes earlier as always. Late enough to dominate without begging attention. Black suit cut sharp as a blade. Expression sealed. Men moved out of his way without realizing they were doing it. Until he saw her. Not at her desk. Not behind glass. Not speaking into an intercom. But standing in the open. Laughing softly. With someone else. The sound hit him like a gunshot. She did not laugh like that at work. His eyes locked on the man beside her. Measuring. Assessing. Searching for threat. The stranger leaned closer to her. Said something low. Her smile widened. Something dark twisted in the boss' chest. It had no name. No logic. Only heat. People spoke to him. Important people. Men who would kill for his approval. He heard none of it. His attention narrowed until the room no longer existed. Only her. And the hand that did not belong on her back. When she finally noticed him, the shift was immediate. Her posture straightened. Professional calm, snapping back into place. But it was too late. He was already moving. Each step deliberate. Controlled. Deadly. Conversations died as he passed. Music faltered. Even the air seemed to pull away. She turned fully now. Surprise flickering for half a second before vanishing behind composure. The stranger followed her gaze. Then stiffened. Everyone knew that look. The one that meant consequences. The boss stopped in front of them. Close enough that she could smell his cologne sharp and familiar. Close enough that her pulse betrayed her. His eyes never left her face. Since when do you date? The words were low. Quiet. But they cracked through the room like thunder. The stranger opened his mouth. She did not let him speak. This is a charity event, she said evenly. I am attending as a guest. The boss jaw tightened. Guest. With him. His gaze flicked once to the stranger. Cold. Final. Then back to her. You should have informed me. About my personal life. Yes. The room held its breath. For the first time since she had known him. He looked uncertain. Not angry. Not violent. Unbalanced. She met his stare without flinching. I did not think it was necessary. Something dangerous shifted behind his eyes. It was not Ray. It was jealousy, awakening in a man who had never learned how to survive it. And in that moment, as music resumed and people pretended nothing had happened, the mafia boss realized something terrifying. The woman he thought existed only for his empire had a life he did not control, and he did not know how to live with that. Not at all. The night did not return to normal after that moment. It only pretended to. Music played. Laughter resumed. Glasses clinked. But something had shifted beneath the surface. Something sharp and unstable. The mafia boss stood among donors and politicians. Men who feared him. Men who needed him. And for the first time in years, he was not fully present. His gaze kept returning to one place. Her. She moved through the crowd with calm grace, answering questions, smiling politely. Every inch the perfect professional. Yet she was no longer his. Not entirely. The stranger remained at her side. Close. Comfortable. Familiar. Each time the man leaned toward her. Each time she nodded or smiled. Something dark tightened inside the boss' chest. This was not Ray. Rage he understood. This was something else. Something humiliating. Something dangerous. Jealousy. He watched her hands, noting how they rested at her sides, how they occasionally brushed the stranger's sleeve. That hand should not be there. The thought came uninvited. Violent. Possessive. He crushed it instantly. She is your assistant. Nothing more. He repeated it like a rule. Like law. Yet the words rang hollow. Across the room, she felt him watching. Not the usual awareness. Not the background presence she had grown used to. This was heavy. Focused. Unsettling. She kept her expression neutral. But her heartbeat betrayed her. This was wrong. He had never looked at her like this. Never tracked her movements with such intensity. She had worked beside him for years. Handled blood money and betrayals. Watched men beg and break. And yet, this was what made her uneasy. Attention. Undivided. Personal. The stranger noticed. He leaned closer and spoke quietly, asking if she wanted to leave. Her answer was automatic. Soon. She needed to regain control. She needed distance. But control was slipping from the man who ruled this room. A rival approached him. Testing. Probing. The boss answered sharply. Too sharply. The man retreated pale and shaken. Whispers began. Something is wrong. He is distracted. He is watching her. The boss felt it too. The loss of control. The fracture in his armor. He turned away from the crowd, his eyes finding her again. She was laughing now. A soft sound. Real. He had never heard it before. Not once. It hit harder than any insult. She never laughed with him. Not like that. The realization landed slow and brutal. He did not know her. Not really. For years, he had trusted her with everything. Money. Secrets. Lives. Yet he had never asked. Who are you when you leave? Who touches you? Who makes you smile? The stranger leaned down, whispered something in her ear. Her smile widened. The boss hand clenched at his side. Enough. He took a step forward, then stopped. Every instinct screamed to intervene, to reclaim control, to remind her who he was. But something colder held him back. Fear. Not of the stranger. Not of the room. Fear that if he crossed that line, nothing would ever be the same again. Across the room, she felt the shift. She looked at him then. Really looked. And for a brief moment, she saw it. Not the monster, not the ruler, but a man standing on the edge of something he did not understand. The music swelled. The night moved on. But the crack remained. And both of them knew. This was only the beginning. The confrontation did not happen where anyone could see. That would have been too obvious. Too reckless. He waited until the gala reached its loudest point. Until music and voices blurred into a single shield of noise. Then he sent one message. "Come with me now." Her phone vibrated once. She did not look surprised, only resigned. She excused herself from the stranger with a polite smile. A promise to return. A lie she already knew she would not keep. The Mafia boss did not wait for her to catch up. He moved through a side corridor, used only by staff and security. A place without cameras. Without witnesses. She followed. Her heels steady. Her pulse less so. The door closed behind them. Silence slammed into the space. Cold. Heavy. Charged. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He stood with his back to her. Hands braced against the table. Jaw locked so tight it ached. "Do you know how dangerous this is?" His voice was low. Controlled. But something underneath it trembled. She folded her arms. Not defensive. Just steady. "If you are referring to the gala, it is under control. Security is flawless. No threats detected. I am not talking about the gala." He turned then, and the look in his eyes made the air feel thinner. That man, the way he said it, stripped the stranger of humanity. Reduced him to a problem. "Who is he?" She met his gaze without blinking. "That is not your concern." The words landed harder than a slap. His nostrils flared. For a fraction of a second, the monster everyone feared surfaced. Then vanished. "You brought him here. Into my world. Into a public event tied to my name. That makes it my concern." "No." Her answer was immediate. Unshaken. "It does not." For the first time since she had known him. She took a step closer. "I am your assistant. Not your possession." The room seemed to hold its breath. He stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time. "You never said you were seeing someone. You never asked." Her voice was calm, but something sharp lived beneath it. "I did not think my personal life required your approval." His lips parted, then closed. He had no answer prepared for that. This was not how things worked. He was used to obedience. To fear. To silence. Not this. Not her. "Do you know what people will think?" He tried another angle. One that usually worked. She smiled. Small. Cold. "I do not care." The admission hit him harder than her defiance. "You should." He took a step toward her. His presence overwhelming. She did not move. "Why?" "Because I protect you. Because everything around you is dangerous." She lifted her chin. "I have survived this world for years, standing beside you. Do not pretend I am fragile now, simply because you noticed me." Something broke then. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet fracture. He realized she was not afraid of him. Not even now. And that terrified him more than any enemy ever had. "Lower your voice." She said it gently. But it was an order. Someone could hear. The irony almost made him laugh. "Almost. You are crossing a line." He said it like a warning. Like a plea. She held his gaze. "So are you." The truth settled between them. Heavy. Unavoidable. This was no longer about security. Or protocol. Or reputation. It was about something neither of them had named. Yet, she stepped back, creating distance, reclaiming control. "I will return to the gala," she said quietly. This conversation never happened. He watched her turn away, watched the door close behind her, and for the first time in his life, the mafia boss understood something he had never planned for. The woman he had built his empire on was not invisible, and she could walk away from him if she chose to. Control did not return after that night. It fractured. The mafia boss told himself it was temporary, that it would pass, that discipline always won. But discipline failed when her name appeared on his schedule, when her voice came through the intercom, when the memory of her standing in front of him, without fear, replayed itself again and again. He began noticing things he had trained himself to ignore. The exact time she arrived each morning, the way she drank her coffee, the subtle change in her expression when she thought no one was watching. And more dangerously, the gaps, the moments when she was not where he expected her to be. On Tuesday, she left 5 minutes earlier than usual. On Wednesday, she declined an evening task. On Thursday, she did not answer her phone on the first ring. Each absence burned. Not because it disrupted work. Everything still ran flawlessly. But because it reminded him. She had a life that did not orbit him. He told himself it was about security. That enemies used weaknesses. That anyone close to him was a potential threat. That lie almost convinced him. Until he found himself ordering background checks that had nothing to do with business. Pulling surveillance footage from places he did not need to monitor. Asking questions he had never asked before. Who was the man? Where did he take her? How often did she smile like that? He did not like the answers. The stranger was consistent. Predictable. Clean. That bothered him most. There was no obvious danger to justify the anger boiling in his chest. So he manufactured reasons. Late-night meetings. Urgent documents. Tasks that required her presence after hours. Not because they were necessary, but because he needed her near. When she stood beside his desk again, focused and professional, the tension eased slightly. He told himself this was proof. She belonged here. Yet the relief never lasted. Because the next evening she left again. And again. And again. And each time, something inside him tightened. She noticed. Not the surveillance. Not yet. But the shift. The way his eyes followed her too long. The way his tone sharpened when she mentioned plans. The way he appeared in places she did not expect. The restaurant near her apartment. The parking garage. The elevator. Always coincidence. Always justifiable. She told herself not to read into it. He was controlling by nature. This was just another form of that. But a quiet unease settled into her bones. This was different. This was personal. The stranger sensed it too. He asked questions she could not answer. Why does he look at you like that? Why is he always there? She dismissed it. Told herself she was imagining things. The mafia boss did not imagine. He watched. Every laugh she gave the other man felt like theft. Every moment he could not see her felt like loss. He began to resent the stranger, not as a threat, but as a reminder that she had chosen someone else, without ever knowing she had been an option. The realization landed slowly. And then all at once, he had never given her a chance, never allowed himself to see her as more. And now, someone else had. The thought was unbearable. He stood alone in his office late one night. City lights burning below. Hands clenched. This was not obsession. He told himself. This was protection. This was correction. This was necessary. But deep down, in the space he never examined, he knew the truth. He was losing control. And he did not know how to stop. The truth did not arrive gently. It arrived like a blade. The mafia boss discovered it by accident, or so he told himself. A name crossed his desk that should not have mattered, buried inside a routine security update. An alias attached to a harmless-looking transaction. The stranger name. At first, nothing seemed wrong. No criminal record. No warrants. No visible ties. Too clean. That alone set off alarms. He ordered a deeper sweep. Off the books. No digital trail. No report saved. What came back made his blood turn cold. The man was not random. He was not harmless. And he was not there for her by coincidence. The stranger was connected to a rival faction. An old network that specialized in quiet infiltration. The kind that used proximity instead of violence. The kind that targeted weaknesses. The mafia boss stared at the screen for a long time. Breathing slow. Controlled. The realization landed with brutal clarity. She was the target. Not because of who she was to the world, but because of who she was to him. His assistant. His constant. His blind spot. For the first time since the gala, jealousy burned away. Replaced by something far worse. Fear. Not for his empire. Not for his power. For her. He replayed every moment in his mind. Every time the stranger touched her arm. Every laugh. Every private word. Was it all manipulation? Was any of it real? Anger surged. Hot and lethal. But it was not directed at her. It was directed inward. He had failed. He had let someone get close to her. Because he had been too busy denying what she meant. He summoned her immediately. Not with an order. Not with urgency. With a request. She noticed the difference the moment she entered his office. The tension was different. Sharper. More dangerous. You asked to see me. Yes. He did not look at her right away. He stood by the window. City stretched beneath him like a battlefield. Close the door. She did. The silence pressed in. The man you are seeing. Her posture stiffened. What about him? He turned slowly. His expression unreadable. He is not who you think. Her heart skipped. What does that mean? It means he was sent. Not for me. For you. The words drained color from her face. That is not possible. I verified it myself. He placed a file on the desk. Not pushing it toward her. Not forcing her to read. I should have said something sooner. Her voice came out tight. You should have trusted me. The accusation cut deep. I am trusting you now. She searched his face. Looking for manipulation. For control. Found none. Only urgency. And something close to regret. Why did you not tell me before? Because I needed to be certain. And because. He stopped. Because admitting it meant admitting I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you mattered more than I allowed myself to believe. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. She sank into the chair without realizing it. You are saying he is using me. Yes. And I will not allow it to continue. The certainty in his voice was terrifying. Not because of violence, but because of what it revealed. He was no longer protecting his empire. He was protecting her. And that changed everything. The truth changed the air between them. She did not speak at first. Her thoughts moved too fast. Every memory of the stranger rewrote itself in her mind. The gentle smiles. The careful questions. The way he always wanted to know where she would be. It had never been romance. It had been positioning. She looked up at the mafia boss. Really looked. For the first time, she saw not control, but restraint stretched thin. Why are you telling me now? Her voice was steady, but something inside her trembled. Because the situation has reached a point where silence is more dangerous than honesty. He stepped closer. Not threatening. Not dominant. Careful. You are not safe. The words landed hard. I have handled danger before. Yes. Beside me. Under my protection. This time you were exposed without knowing it. That was my failure. The admission stunned her. Men feared him because he never accepted fault. Because weakness meant death in his world. And yet here he was, claiming responsibility. She rose from the chair. So what happens now? Now you stop seeing him. Not as an order. As a warning. She met his gaze. And if I refuse? The room went quiet. He did not answer immediately. Because he knew the weight of that question. I will still protect you. Even if you hate me for it. That scared her more than any threat. You do not get to decide my life for me. She said it softly. But it was a line drawn. I know. He nodded once. That is why I am asking you to choose. The word choose echoed. She turned away. Pacing. Breathing. For years, she had lived inside his world. Safe because she understood the rules. Now the danger had stepped outside the system. And she had been blind to it. You could have lied. She said quietly. You could have ordered me. Locked him away. Handled it without involving me. Yes. Why did you not? Because I will not become the thing you fear. He stopped behind her. Close enough to feel. And because if I take your choice away, I lose you. The honesty stripped the breath from her lungs. Lose me. She turned. I am not yours to lose. No. His voice was firm. You are not. But I know what it would cost me if you walked away. The silence stretched. In that moment, the power between them shifted. Not violently. Not dramatically. But completely. She saw the man beneath the reputation. A man who had built walls so high he had forgotten how to live without them. I need time. She finally said. Time to think. Time to understand what this means. Take all the time you need. He stepped back, giving her space. But you will stay under protection until then. Not yours. She corrected. Mine. He inclined his head. Fair. As she walked toward the door. She stopped. If you're wrong. If he is not what you think. I will accept the consequences. He said without hesitation. And if I am right. She did not finish. He did not need her to. The door closed behind her. Left alone. The Mafia boss stood motionless, knowing the next move would decide everything. Power. Loyalty. And the one thing he had never planned to risk. His heart. The trap was set in silence. No meetings. No threats. No visible retaliation. That was what made it deadly. From the outside, everything looked normal. The assistant returned to work. Her routine unchanged. Her efficiency untouched. But the Mafia boss had altered the pattern beneath the surface. Security shifted. Names were moved. Eyes appeared where none had been before. He did not confront the stranger. That would have been too crude. Instead, he let the man believe he was winning. The assistant noticed the changes before anyone else. She always did. Cars that appeared twice on her commute. Faces that lingered too long in reflections. Messages that arrived seconds after she thought of asking. You are being watched. She said it quietly one evening. Not looking at him. I know. His answer came just as calm. That was when she understood. This was not protection anymore. This was strategy. He explained nothing. Asked for nothing. Only one thing. Trust me. It was not a command. It was a request. She gave it. That choice changed everything. The next night, the stranger asked her to meet. A place she had never been. A quiet bar near the docks. She told the Mafia boss, before she could second-guess herself. He did not try to stop her. "Good," he said. "That is exactly where he should think you are." Her breath caught. "You are using me as bait." "No." His eyes met hers. "I am using myself." She went anyway. The bar smelled like salt and old wood. Music low. Lights dim. The stranger smiled when he saw her. Relief flashing too fast. "You came." "Of course," she said softly. "Why would I not?" He leaned closer. Lowered his voice. "Things are moving faster than expected. We may need to accelerate." Her pulse quickened. Accelerate what? The plan. The word confirmed everything. Behind the walls and shadows. Men moved. The Mafia boss watched from across the street. Hidden. Still. This was not about power now. Or territory. This was about ending a threat before it touched her again. The stranger reached for her hand. And that was when it happened. The doors locked. The music stopped. Silence fell like a blade. The stranger looked up. Confusion turning to fear. "You lied," she said. Her voice steady. Before he could answer, men emerged. Not loud. Not violent. Efficient. The Mafia boss stepped into the light. The stranger froze. Recognition dawned. Then terror. "You." He tried to stand. Hands pinned him back into the chair. "You underestimated me," the Mafia boss said calmly. "And you made one fatal mistake. You touched what is mine." The assistant inhaled sharply. He turned to her immediately. "I am sorry for saying it like that." The stranger laughed nervously. "Mine. You think she belongs to you?" The Mafia boss expression did not change. "No," he said. "She chooses me. And that is what makes this ending inevitable." The stranger face drained of color. The truth had arrived. And there would be no escape. The stranger did not scream. He did not beg. That was the first shock. He smiled. Not wide. Not confident. But knowing. "You think this ends here?" His voice was calm despite the hands holding him down. The Mafia boss did not react. He had learned long ago that fear spoke loudest when it thought it was safe. "You were never the plan," the stranger continued, his eyes never leaving the assistant. "You were the message." Her chest tightened. "What does that mean?" The stranger exhaled slowly. "You were chosen because you are the only thing he cannot replace." Silence slammed into the room. The assistant felt the weight of those words settle deep. Heavy. Cold. "He is wrong," the Mafia boss said. Voice controlled. "Deadly." "No." The stranger shook his head. "I am right. Do you know how long they watched you? How long they studied patterns? Your routines? Your loyalty? They knew exactly where to strike. Not at his money. Not at his men. At you." The assistant felt the room tilt. "You are lying," she said. But the certainty was gone. The stranger smiled again. "I wish I were. You think it was coincidence that I met you? That I listened? That I learned what made you laugh? That I stayed just close enough to feel real?" His gaze sharpened. "I was not sent to seduce you. I was sent to confirm." "Confirm what?" The words scraped out of her. "That he would break." The Mafia boss moved then. One sharp step forward. "Enough." The stranger laughed softly. "Too late." He already did. He turned his head, just enough to look at the assistant. "You did not see it. But I did. The moment he lost control at the gala. The way he watched you like the world narrowed around you. That was the signal. You were not a weakness. Until that night. The realization hit her like a blow. She remembered the room freezing, the way eyes had turned, the shift she had felt but not understood. You were bait, the stranger continued. Without knowing it, they wanted proof that the man everyone feared could be made to bleed. Not with bullets, with you. The assistant inhaled sharply. She looked at the mafia boss and saw it, the truth he had never spoken, the way his jaw was set, the fury not for the stranger, but for himself. You should have told me. Her voice was quiet. I did not know. He answered. And when I did, I ended it. You still used me, she said. He did not deny it. Yes. The word hurt more than she expected. But not the way you think. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. I did not use you to trap him. I used myself. The assistant frowned. You think I would put you in danger after knowing the truth? Never. The stranger scoffed. Then why is she here? Because she chose to be. The mafia boss said. And that choice ended everything. The stranger face finally cracked. You cannot kill an idea. No. He replied calmly. But I can erase the people who tried to turn her into one. He nodded once. The men released the stranger, only to pull him away toward the back door. As he was dragged out, he called out one last time. You were never invisible. You were the crown. Silence returned. The assistant stood frozen. Her world rearranged itself in seconds. I need the truth, she said softly. All of it. The mafia boss met her eyes. And for the first time, he did not hide. I saw you long before that night. I just never allowed myself to want what I could not afford to lose. Her breath caught, because now she understood. The jealousy, the fear, the control. It had never been about power. It had been about love awakening in the most dangerous man alive. The city did not notice when the war ended. There were no sirens, no headlines, no bodies left where anyone could count them. That was how the mafia boss preferred it. Clean, silent, final. By morning, the rival network had collapsed inward. Accounts frozen. Contacts vanished. Men disappeared into places where names no longer mattered. The world moved on. But inside the glass tower, nothing was the same. She stood in her usual place outside his office, tablet in hand, expression composed. Anyone watching would have seen the same assistant. Efficient, untouchable, invisible. But he saw the difference immediately. You should take the day off, he said quietly. I am fine, she replied. That was a lie. They both knew it. He did not argue. He rose from behind the desk, crossed the space between them slowly, carefully, not as a boss, not as a king, as a man. I owe you the truth. All of it. Her throat tightened, but she nodded. He gestured toward the window. The city stretched below them. Endless, unforgiving. I built this empire because control was safer than connection. He began. Power does not leave you. People do. I learned that early. She listened. Silent. You were never supposed to matter like this. He continued. You were competence, stability, precision. And then one day, I realized the only time my world made sense was when you were in it. The words settled between them. Heavy, unavoidable. I did not see you because seeing you meant risk. Losing you would destroy me. So I pretended you did not exist outside these walls. Her voice was soft. And then I did. He nodded once. And I lost control. She stepped closer. Since when do you date? She repeated the words from the gala. Since when do you care? He met her gaze. Since I realized you were the only thing I would burn this city down to protect. The admission stripped the air from the room. She should have stepped back. She did not. I was never invisible. She said, "No." He answered, "You were the center. I just refused to look directly at you." She exhaled slowly. "I will not live in your shad. I will not be owned or protected without my consent." "Good," he said quietly, "because I am not asking for ownership." He reached into his jacket. Not dramatic, not rehearsed. "When I say stay, I mean stand beside me. When I say choose, I mean freely." Her pulse thundered. "And if I walk away?" He did not hesitate. "Then I let you go." The words shocked her, because they were true. She searched his face. The ruthless man, the feared legend, and found honesty. "You are impossible," she said. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I am told that often." She closed the distance. "Then here is the truth you owe me. I saw you too. Long before the gala. Long before the stranger. I just believed wanting you was a weakness." He exhaled sharply. "It is." She smiled. "And that is why it matters." Silence wrapped around them. Not tense. Not dangerous. Certain. From this moment forward, nothing would be hidden. No illusions. No denial. The woman who never existed stood fully in the light. And the man who ruled the shadows chose her anyway. Not as an assistant. Not as a possession. But as his equal. Outside, the city kept breathing, unaware that the most dangerous man alive had just lost the only battle that ever mattered. The one against his own heart.